Tap into a whole new world of financial possibilities. Genie, get it to get it.
Welcome to Biznomics, your weekend's most profitable 60 minutes. I'm Tharandu Amarasekara. When we think about a business, we can talk about the plans, the budgets, the strategies, but what about the execution? Sun Tzu, the famous military strategist that has won a countless number of battles, once said, in battle, it's always about finding an opportunity amidst the problems. One thing that could give you a lot of problems and even headaches in a business could be the operations. Getting those plans finitely executed, putting them into action. We can always talk about the bigger concepts, but end of the day, you need to have those plans, those strategies put into motion. You have to get the wheels moving, as one would say, and that's when most of the nightmares, the problems, the issues can pop up. How ready are you to handle operations? How ready are you to make sure that your operations are run smoothly in the business? This will be our focus today in Biznomics. And joining me for this very important discussion is none other than Chinthaka Mahesh, who is the head of operations of Pizza Hut and Taco Bell Sri Lanka. Chinthaka, absolute pleasure to have you. Welcome to Biznomics.
Thank you very much for having me here, Tharandu.
Chinthaka, let's talk about the crux of the matter here. Now, operations. Because we always hear people talking about strategy meeting, budget discussion, review plans, or plans being reviewed and discussed, etc. But I think we are missing a point here. End of the day, it's not about how well you plan, it's about how well you get the job done. Am I right if I say that the operations are actually the heart of a business?
Yes, you are right. I agree with you. It is the heart of the business. I would classify it as the engine of the business, because no matter what you do or what you plan, and what you plan for and what you invest for, as long as you don't get it executed right, as you rightly said at the beginning, it is not going to work. It is the heart of the business because it is more closer to our customers, because that's where the rubber hits the road. Right? Whatever you do at the back end has to get translated into actions which is relevant to your customers, right? Where your customers, those actions should be embraced by your customers. So that is the core role of the operations in my point of view. In my organization, operation is at the core, and even we don't have a concept called head office. We have classified, or we have labeled our head office as the restaurant support center, which means the operation at the restaurant is the core, and all the functions.
The place that matters, the nerve of your business.
Absolutely. All the other functions, marketing, the finance, to supply chain, to IT, HR, everything has rallied around operations to support the operation team, because that's where we really meet the customer face to face, and that's how our customer sees us, right? So operation is the heart of the business, and getting the operation right, getting operation to align with what customers really need is quite essential, right? You can have all the internal views saying that, okay, I want to run my operation quite efficiently, I want to run my operation quite effectively. These are the savings that I would bring in if I run in this way. Yes, those are secondary for us. In my view, we always should look what exactly our customers want. In the theme of the entire operation framework, what we run is the customer mania mindset.
Some very good thoughts there. From what I understand from what you said as well, the operations should be customer-centric.
Absolutely.
It should be what makes it easy for the customer to interact with the business. Am I right? Am I interpreting you properly?
Yes.
And I like the example you mentioned about rubber hitting the road, because one sport we see, for example, Formula 1, all that analysis, all the race strategies, but end of the day, if your vehicle is not running smoothly on the tracks, you don't win the race and you don't hit the jackpot.
Absolutely, absolutely. All your effort goes down the drain.
Chinthaka, let's talk about the pandemic. Now, during the pandemic, we saw operations turning upside down or inside out, or we can bring a plethora of different I would say examples for that. But end of the day, we saw a complete radical transformation of operations.
Yeah.
We saw, especially even in the restaurant industry, we saw how the customer who earlier was more like a complementary customer, who is maybe the takeaway or the takeout customer or the delivery customer, now becoming the mainstream customer. And we have seen this around the world in about 80% of organizations which are into food and beverages. We saw this. In your experience, how really did the pandemic transform operations in Sri Lanka, and especially in your sector?
Tarun, I must say that pandemic, when it first struck us back in March 2020,
Yes.
it was a surprise for us. It was a challenge for us.
And let's admit, a much needed break for us as well.
Absolutely, it was a much needed break, and that is what we wanted. But of course, I must tell you that that break was not really given to us with the pandemic, because it has really opened up different doors to what we do. I see this pandemic as an opportunity on one hand. On the other hand, it's a challenge. And also, this pandemic, this entire journey post March 2020 has been a fantastic journey. If I look at it in a quite positive manner, from the operation point of view, it has been a fantastic journey which we have had, especially with a lot of surprises. I'll tell you why. When this entire pandemic started, when all of us basically had to shut down our operation within 1 or 2 days, and everybody didn't know what to do at that time, right? Everyone was wondering, okay, how to handle the situation, and nobody was clear on how to go about the business.
Because no one really had memories of what happened 100 years back with the Spanish flu.
And
Even in our history, we never really speak about it much. Even in schools, people are not taught about it.
Yeah, I heard Spanish flu, once this corona pandemic started.
Yes.
So when we started this pandemic, we were actually caught off guard. We never knew what to do, and we were thinking of how to start the operation, how to restart the engine.
Yeah.
Right. The good part there is, as a team, we started where we had to start. We never waited till it become a perfect scenario to start. We started with whatever the resources. We started with whatever the possible ways. Where we started, we opened our restaurant in wherever the possible areas. And the key thing is, we set our customers' expectations right. Yes, in the non-pandemic situation, we would say 30 minutes delivery is the standards what we have. But during that time, we said, we can't deliver it in 30 minutes. It may take 1 hour.
So you were transparent with the customer.
We were very
you
transparent.
Truthful to the customer.
We had to do that because
And be upfront.
We had to be upfront because we had to give them the choice to order with us or not to order with us, with the reality. Otherwise, we thought, okay, we should not really over-promise customers and under-deliver. It'll really lead into other disappointments.
Correct.
So prior to the pandemic, we had the room to do a lot of things. We had the lead times to plan a lot of things. But post-pandemic, it was quick decisions, and it was the risk that we had to take in some of the areas. And the things what we did were mainly focused on getting the customer happy and how to reach customer effectively. That was the only focus, right? So the good thing is that we started working in that manner. We started doing things on our own ways, without having a nice PowerPoint presentations and approval processes and all these things. We started doing our own things in our own ways. And what I can say right now is, this pandemic has really fast-tracked or propelled us 5 years ahead. We are doing things. We are bringing in technological changes. We are doing in operational changes, which were in the pipeline and which were to do in maybe in 2025 or 2026, but
It's happening now.
it is happening now.
Chinthaka, I think your thoughts resonate with the comments of Bill Gates, the founder of Microsoft, who said the entire pandemic, and even Satya Nadella, the current CEO of Microsoft, when they said that this entire pandemic has actually made some of the digital transformations that were to happen in 10 years' time, it made sure it happened in, in 3 months.
Absolutely. And it is because we had to do it. We were pushed into a place we have to do that. Otherwise,
Pushed to a corner.
We wouldn't have survived. And the great learning is, as to everyone in through this pandemic, is that you can start things. For you to start a thing, it should not be a perfect thing. You should not wait until it becomes a perfect. You can start it and then gradually correct and improve and make your way through.
The famous strategic direction of Lindblom, who said muddle through.
Absolutely.
Trial and error. And especially in testing times like this, trial and error is not a bad strategy at all.
Yeah, you need to find, you have to be restless, and you need to find different avenues, and you cannot wait till it is a perfect thing to roll out.
There are some very, very thoughts there.
Yeah.
Now, we always talk about operations, and now we also talk about operations being transformed due to the pandemic. But Chinthaka, let's not forget the people, the ones who have to do the operations. Now, you need to build a workforce. Anyway, building workforces and building people is a tough challenge. Now you have to build a team that can be resilient in a pandemic, that can resonate with the company values and adjust themselves to deliver in the pandemic. Surely this is the challenge of the century.
It is. Tharidu, I must say that I was pleasantly surprised with the way our team really put their hands up and started delivering during the pandemic. And it really opened up a different avenues to think about people, how to develop people, and how to build a proper workforce, how to rally a proper workforce around one mission. So in my organization, what we believe in four things. We have to believe in people, we need to empower people, and we need to enable people, as well as we need to energize people. That's the formula. So we need to believe in people, because especially in the operation where my frontliner meeting the customer, the delivery rider who's meeting the customer, or the frontliner who's meeting the customer, has to make that decision to delight the customer. He or she should not be going through multiple red tapes to get approvals to delight a customer. So we need to believe in people's capability. We need to believe in people's intuition, especially in the operation, because you're dealing with customers, and customers need quick decisions.
Valid point.
And
Chinthaka, correct me if I'm wrong, but in your organization, especially organizations like yours who are in the food and beverage sector, the entire organization will be judged, evaluated by the customer, not by the CEO, not by the senior management like you, but by the rider and how friendly they are, how pleasant they are.
Absolutely.
How good the operations are, how good the operational experience is to the customer.
Yeah, that is the phase of the company. So we need to have a trust on these people's capability. We train them, yes, we give them enough knowledge, so we need to believe in them. And we need to empower them. We need to empower them to take decisions. Everyone should be empowered to take decisions, especially in a context like ours. Like, for an example, if someone is not satisfied with the meal that he or she does get at one of our restaurants, our team member should be empowered to replace that meal without asking anyone.
Without having to call a head office to get permission.
Absolutely. We are in the business of making people happy. Right?
It's a nice definition and nice dimension.
Yeah. So we have to empower people, and not only empowering, we need to enable people through knowledge. Not only that, through technology. Technology plays a bigger role in terms of empowering our people.
Absolutely. We are going to come back to you on more details on that, especially with regard to how technologies are empowering the operations of today. We'll discuss on that on more detail. Stay tuned. We will be back after this short break. This is Biznomics.
Tap into a whole new world of financial possibilities. Genie, get it to get it.
Welcome back. Handling operations in a smarter and better way is the theme today here at Biznomics. And we are in conversation with Chinthaka Mahesh. Chinthaka, before the break, we stopped at technologies. Now, surely, technologies has been one of those things that has truly redefined the operations, especially in the face of the pandemic. In fact, if not for technology, I think most organizations would not have been able to carry out their operations properly. In your experience and in your viewpoint, how do you see technologies really changing the operations of today?
Tarindu, technology for me, how I see that in the operation in our industries, we should leverage technology with two objectives. Number one is we should leverage technology to deliver greater customer experience. On the other hand, we should leverage technology to deliver a superior team member experience, superior employee experience.
So focus on both the internal customer and the external customer.
Absolutely. Because for us, the technology, the customers are evolving. Customers need to know what is happening in and around their world, what the offers are, and what are the available options for them quite fast in a very fast manner. So we need to stay ahead of the competition if we are to really leverage on technology. We need to reach customers and need to understand how the Sri Lankan market is behaving in terms of customers' point of view, how they are behaving and what their requirements are. Right. So there are many things that we can do. We can use a lot of new things. I would say, as a country, as a business community, we have a long way to go in terms of understanding what technology can do to our businesses and what sort of benefits that we can reap out of the available technology. We should actually have a tech vision for organizations where we visualize the technical advancement that we want to bring on board for organizations.
Like a digital mission kind of thing.
Absolutely. Right. What AI can do for you, what IoTs can do for you, what machine learnings, and how can you bring those elements to transform your customer experience to a totally new experience. And
where you recognize the customer needs before the customer actually wants it.
Absolutely. Maybe as a market leader, we can create a customer need, because being an industry leader, I think it is our responsibility to navigate the customer needs too. Right?
And set the trend and set the bar.
Absolutely. And in terms of team member experience, it's again, how can we make it easy for our team members? How can we make their life easy using the technology? Right? How can we bring about efficiencies to the organization? For an example, things like IoTs can be used to bring in efficiencies in terms of managing our utilities and things like that. So how can we use them is something that we really need to look at. And the other thing is that with the technology, you get the data-driven decision making, because technology enables you to cut and chop data the way you want and make some conscious decisions, the data-driven decisions, right? So yes, on one angle you need to have a technological transformation, but on the other hand you need to groom your leadership. You need to groom your organization, the leaders of the organization, to make decisions based on data.
A data mindset, a digital mindset.
Digital mindset.
In fact, Chinthaka, what you're saying makes a lot of sense, because end of the day, we are living in a world where we have about 30 zettabytes of data globally available, and 1 zettabyte being a trillion gigabytes. And this is set to exponentially grow up to about 170 zettabytes of data by the next 5 years. But from what I understood, and correct me if I'm wrong, we see a lot of companies thinking, okay, look, you know what? this system fits our budget, let's implement it. All right, everyone now rally around this system. Customers, this is the system, get used to it. But what you're saying is the reverse. What you're saying is, look at what technology your customers will be comfortable with. Look at what technology can help your team member operational problems and bring a solution for that. So people first, not technology first. That's what you're saying.
Absolutely. Customer mania and people on the front page. Those are the two themes.
And technology is there to support that.
Yes.
I think that's a very valid point and a very good, I would say, approach when bringing new technology as well, Chinthaka. Let's talk about, I know this is probably one of the key challenges you face very regularly, variations, handling operations variations. Because even in the age-old philosophies with regard to quality management, starting from Six Sigma to Kaizen, a lot of these have been about how can we avoid variations. Because at the end of the day, variations lead to quality problems and then operational problems, financial problems, and the list goes on. It cascades into so many different other issues. So what is your answer towards overcoming these operational variations? It could be in food and beverage industry, it can be in general operations, because I know you have extensive experience across multiple different industries. What's your blueprint? Because it's easy to set a blueprint and tell people to follow this, but whether they follow it or not is the problem. How do you reinforce that blueprint? That's the $1 million question.
I would say it's a very pertinent question. Variations are bound to happen. We have to accept that.
We are all human.
We are all humans. In my in this industry where I am in right now is full of standards, processes, and because it deals with food safety at the end of the day.
Yes.
And the consistent product is a key.
And global consistency has to be achieved, isn't it?
Yeah, global consistency has to be achieved. So there are many processes from a very small thing like the size of an onion cut to a bigger thing. There are many processes.
And I believe you all have certain very strict, I would say maybe KPIs or very strict measures like maybe the weight, the quantity that goes into something, the total size. Am I right?
Yep. So everything has a process. So the challenge here is how to get people to adhere to processes. What we have experienced over a period of time as an industry is that as much as processes needs to be right, it has to be people friendly, right? It has to be operational friendly, right? If I can have the best process in the world, but if it's not operational friendly, if that process cannot be digested by the team,
yes,
it is bound to fail. It's bound to fail.
Yeah. So what you're saying is you need the best process is not the one that is best in the book, but the one that is best when it comes to being implemented. And having that process in place and enabling people, training people, enabling people is the key. Now, for an example, we have a bigger challenge in our industry where our staff turnover is very much high because at the frontline level. Yes.
So, having the trained set of frontliners is a challenge to follow the processes.
Because when they leave, the knowledge is also lost.
Absolutely. So, continuous reinforcement, continuous training, especially on-the-job training, having that coaching culture is an essential, right? Having that right set of culture to monitor processes as well as accept the failures and build on those failures is quite essential, right? We can have 1001 processes, but if we are content saying that okay, we are happy with these processes, we are doing good, we are at 95% or 99%, we are happy. We need to question ourselves: is it really adding value to our customers? Is it really adding value to our team members? Are these processes complicating our operation? Sometimes the processes what we implement today may not be really valid for tomorrow's environment. Especially the things what we did prior to the pandemic sometimes is not no more valid with the current situation.
You live in a new normal.
Absolutely. So you need to continuously ask that question in front of the mirror. Are we having the right processes? Are these operational friendly? right? Can our people digest these processes and implement this very easily, and how best we can support them? Mistakes can happen, we need to accept, but we need to have that dialogue with the team, dialogue with ourselves about the processes what we have put. I think as long as we have that dialogue and we keep on improving on a day by day basis, these variations will be very, very minimal.
Chinthaka, now something on a more personal experience note, I'm sure you have experienced this. Now, you are from an industry where there's a lot of direct contact with the individuals, with the individual customer. There's a direct contact.
Yeah.
Now, that also means human contact. That means a possibility of contracting COVID. So naturally, this fear psychosis is there in the minds of the employees. How do you really counter that in operations?
Basically, I must say that the processes itself, what we have laid out, guarantees our employees about the safety that they have. Right. I'll tell you an example. In our business, where we are washing your hands and sanitizing your hand from elbow to the tip, has been a practice. Doing it every 20 minutes has been a practice well before we started going into the pandemic.
All right. Okay.
Right. Wearing gloves, wearing mask has been a practice well before we have gone into that to the pandemic. So those practices, what we have been practicing, the surface sanitizing, all these health and hygiene practices, what we have in our frontline environment, actually gives us the trust and the confidence to our people. Even I used to say to my spouse, saying that, okay, rather than going to anywhere else, I trust going to one other restaurant and working from there, because there's a
culture of better sanitization practice.
It is a more safer culture, right? And the trust, and also, Tarindu, I think we as a management, we need to take decisions at the right time. I'll tell you an example. When the when this third wave came in, before the country went into a lockdown, we took a decision as a team. We'll stop doing dine-in.
And that is very well accepted and received by the community as well.
Absolutely. So why we took that is mainly because we didn't want to encourage our customers flocking into our outlets, because we knew that the situation is not so good.
Yes.
And also we didn't want to expose our team members and the riders. So by doing that, I think we managed to gain a lot of confidence within the team.
Yep.
Right, especially and apart from that, I think during this pandemic, as an organization or any organization, I have seen many organizations have taken wonderful initiatives to build trust among their employees by providing them the healthcare facilities, by giving them their family, supporting their families with dry rations and other essentials when they are under quarantine, when they are out for work. That cushion, if we can give that cushion to our employees, I think that'll be a huge moral booster.
Once again, the philosophy of Sun Tzu, who said, if your employees trust you to have their best interest in your heart, then they will go to any length to perform for you.
Absolutely.
Chinthaka, let's talk about the strategy for operations. Now, you have to execute your operations, yes, but behind the individual operations, there has to be a particular overall strategy. This is what we call the operation strategy. I'm sure that this is basically your bread and butter every day. When you're setting up operations strategy, what should the business leaders do? Let me either rephrase that question. What mistakes should the business leaders avoid when they are setting up an operations strategy?
I think when you are setting up an operation strategy, the common mistakes what many of us tend to do is that we look at the famous operational parameters, the wastages to this to that, and efficiencies,
productivity.
We
the KPI dashboard, the dashboard syndrome.
The dashboard syndrome, absolutely. We tend to look right under our noses, right? I think that is the biggest mistake one can do when setting up a strategy. In my view, the right way to go about it is to have that customer mania mindset. I always use this word, customer mania mindset, not customer centric mindset, customer mania mindset. You have to serve your customers as a maniac, right?
Customer crazy.
Customer crazy. You need to do that. So if you have your thoughts, and if you look at your strategy through that lens, I think we tend to win than fail in our strategies. So having that right level of customer centricness, centricity, and the customer mania mindset is quite essential when setting up a strategy. And Tarindu, I think apart from that, one big thing is people, right?
We keep coming back to that, isn't it?
Because you have heard this word called this the culture eats strategy for breakfast.
Yes.
Right. So it doesn't matter how good your strategy on a PowerPoint or the document is. It's the people who execute it. So you need to get your people involved, and also your strategy should be people friendly, which means I'm not telling that okay you need to do everything whatever that we have been asked to do. No, but when you draft a strategy or when you try to roll out a strategy, you need to consider how are you going to enable your workforce, how are you going to energize, and how are you going to rally your workforce around your strategy, right? If you get these two areas of the weighing scale right, I feel that you will have a higher chance to have a fantastic strategy.
Some good points there as well. Stay tuned. We will be back after this short break. This is Biznomics. And we are back. Here on Biznomics, our focus today is on getting the operations of an organization right. Now, if you're in charge of operations, an operations manager, an assistant operations manager, or any operations management related role, probably you might be feeling overwhelmed with so much of things to be done, so much little time. Let's ask how to handle that problem with our episode's special guest, who is none other than Chinthaka Mahesh. Chinthaka, now, getting all this work done by yourself, I mean, when you're an operations manager, your plate is full, literally. Correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of people who handle operations, they've told me, Tarandu, we sit down to do one thing, and we get up after doing 10 things. But still that one original thing might be still remaining. Like every time you think you have one thing to be done and you start doing it, you realize there's another 10 things to be done. How do you really keep a tab of all these things, and how do you really prioritize your workload in operations?
I would say trying to do everything by yourself will definitely kill you. I've gone through that. For me, what I believe is if you look at your whatever comes to you, if you take the task and prioritize them in a manner where you apply those lenses what I mentioned you earlier. What is making my customer happy? Is it adding any value to my customer? I think that is something that you can always apply when prioritizing things. That's number one. Number two is when we are managing an operation, if we have enabled our teams to make decisions, if we have inculcated that culture to do things, make mistakes, if people are not afraid of making mistakes, right? And if people are given the room to learn through their mistakes, I think then everything will not come for approvals, everything will not come for our nod, right? So because people have to take decisions at different level, and that's why we have a thing called hierarchy, right? So we need to empower people in one area which we believe in our team is a concept called humanocracy. right?
No bureaucracy.
No bureaucracy. It's a humanocracy where everyone's view is taken into consideration and everyone is given the freedom to take decisions. Right? You don't have to get the consent. Now, for an example, if I want to replace some sort of a machinery which has been lying in one of the restaurant for 10 years, and if I jolly well know that this is going to, this has to be replaced, I should not really get approval, because at the end of the day, managing the P&L of the restaurant is that restaurant manager's job, right? So he should actually look at the depreciation and the residual value of that machinery, and then he should be able to take that decision.
Not wait to go to a finance department and get their estimates and quotations and accounting procedures applied and all that.
No, because how we manage the team is now we have roughly about 72 restaurants across the country. Every restaurant manager is responsible for his or her P&L. Right. So giving that desired top line and profit bottom line is his duty, and the manager controllable expenses is his responsibility, and he can make decision. He doesn't have to really ask, can I spend $500 to buy this thing? No, right? So that's one area. The other area what I say is basically we need to leverage on technology, right? Because as you rightly said, it is essential to keep a tab on it. That's the difference between being micro-informed versus
Micromanaging.
being a micromanager.
Or microcontroller.
Absolutely. So try to be a micro, I always try to be a micro-informed person.
Like know everything that's happening, but don't go and poke your finger into everything.
Yes, because you have people to take decision, right? So it's a
nice different way of looking at it.
Yeah. So it's how we get technology to serve this, technology to help us to make decision. How we enable people to use technology, as I told earlier, how we enable people to use data and take decisions based on data. If we can build that kind of a team who's capable of doing that, I think sitting at the operations head's role is not a stressful one, and it is not a stressful one for me as of now.
All right. Chinthaka, now a lot of people, let's admit, they end up in operations management role, not always by choice. Either they are thrust into it or they are given a particular job and then they realize this is to do with operations. And because let's admit, when we were in school, we always studied about business, about all these leaders and all that. We never really come across these terms like operations manager, etc. But what is your advice for future operations managers, somebody who is watching this show, somebody who might think, well, you know what, I don't mind being an operations manager. Beyond the degrees and qualifications, what are the attitudes and the attributes that a person should have to be a successful operations manager?
I myself was a sales guy prior to this, so the simple answer is that you can have your degree, you can have your qualifications behind you. It will definitely add that discipline and that knowledge.
Yes, and a bit of confidence as well.
A bit of confidence to you when you are taking over any role. What matters, not only in operation but also in any role, what matters is the attitude. In my words, I term it as agility. Agility. I term agility as one should have a learning agility, where he should be open for learning, where he should have that, a progressive mindset, development mindset, that learning agility in one's, without thinking, okay, I know everything, I have my degrees and I have my MBAs to PhDs to everything. No, you should be learning agile, and especially in a function like operation, you should be people agile. Right? You should be agile to people. You should be basically, when you're making decisions, you should be people agile. You should not be rigid. You should understand people. You have to deal with people from different walks of life.
Correct.
Right? So you have to be people agile. You should be able to deal with different calibers of people.
Understood. Chinthaka, I want to drill you into a little bit more on this part here. Now, when you say being people agile, now you might sometimes meet people who are actually, coming from maybe a similar walk of life, similar education, similar mindset. But then again, we also sometimes come across these people we term as difficult people. The ones who are not really seeing your angle at all, the ones who are always trying to, find a different way out of it. How do you really, but at the end of the day, you have to get them also to, throw the line and be aligned, or sometimes you end up throwing the line with them sometimes. How do you really handle these difficult people in operations?
It's how you communicate, and it is based on the effort that you put to understand that person, I would say. Because
like how much effort you put into maybe break through to that person and bond with that person.
Yeah, how genuine your effort is. Because when you're handling a team in an operation environment, you will tend to get different people.
Yes.
Right? People who will fall in line with what you say from the word go, and there are people who will say no, this is not the way. This is wrong. You need to think. You need to sit back and think and ask why that person is reacting in such manner. Right? You need to listen to that people, and more.
What's their story?
What's their story? Why are they coming in this way? So the more you build a dialogue with them, the more you try to understand them genuinely. I would say that problem is not going to be there, and obviously there'll be misalignments. There'll be disagreements between a team. Right? That is a healthy combination. Right? What we need to understand is we can have disagreements, but once we align on a decision, irrespective of whether it's my decision or whether it's someone else's decision, we need to put 100% behind that and execute that. So as long as you understand that, as long as your team understands that, I think disagreements, misalignments, being tough to convince is a healthy thing to have. What we should not forget is we should not get carried away with those, misalignments in a team. Sometimes people tend to get carried away saying that with their ego, saying that okay, this person is not aligning with me. But you should really put your team's harmony, you should put your business objectives first.
The superordinate goals, as we call it.
Superordinate goals first before we really act.
So what you're saying, Chinthaka, is you need to have a culture where you can agree to disagree. And yet, do what's right for the business. Absolutely. I think that's a very good culture to have as well. On a final note, now Chinthaka, you said you were from originally a sales background. So you were probably used to going to shops, going to the outlets and doing the different operations by yourself. From doing the operations by yourself to successfully getting it done, what's the secret sauce there?
As I told you, we can't do everything by ourselves. What we need to understand is, Tharindu, we need to get things done through people, as I told you, by enabling them through knowledge and technology, as well as by energizing them. We need to empower people. Right? I'm repeating this because that is the winning formula for us. Right? That it has proven. Right? So you really want to train your people, get people to do their roles, which is expected from them. Right? If at my level, if I go down to down to something which should be done by a frontliner, I think then it's a failure, because we need to coach them, we need to empower them, but having that right job scope defined and measured and executed is the key, right? So we obviously cannot do everything by ourselves, and our decisions will not be the best decisions every time. So we need to have that flexibility and the trust trust what we place on our team is the key.
Chinthaka, on a further final note, any advice to any young school leaver who is planning to get into a business, going to start at the lowest level of operations, who might be thinking, oh, is this even significant? Where am I in the organization? But from your words, operations is the heart of the business. A few words of advice taking the last minute.
Couple of things. It's basically how ready are you to get your hands dirty?
To roll up the sleeve.
To roll up the sleeves and get into actions. And when you can do that, when you are young and energetic, you have to get into the action, right? You should have that desire to be in the action, right? Once you get into that action, you'll understand the finer elements of the people's culture, the operations, the intricacies of that environment. That's I think I would say anyone to
how you handle starting from the security guy in charge all the way up to another business partner or a supplier CEO.
Yeah, and not only that, you need to build as a quite an agile person, as I mentioned earlier. Your agility, right? You must have done biology or mathematics or anything, and your aspirations must be different. But the life throws different opportunities at you at different time. But you have to be agile to grab those opportunities,
adapt to it and learn.
Adapt to it, learn, and really capitalize on them. Right?
Absolutely.
That agility is one thing that will propel anybody into greater heights.
The role of operations in a business, how to get your operations right, how to set a good operation strategy, and most importantly, how do you make sure that your workforce is ready to deliver those exceptional operations. This was the focus today on Biznomics. I'm indeed grateful to our special guest, Chinthaka Mahesh, for having joined us and shared his thoughts with us. Chinthaka, thank you very much for joining us today. I know you have a very busy schedule. Thank you for sharing the finer tips of how to get the operations right, and wishing you and your team all the very best. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Tarindra, for having me here. Thank you. Pleasure.
And with that, we wrap up today's episode of Biznomics. No matter what business you may be in, have a profitable week ahead. I will see you with the next episode.
Tap into a whole new world of financial possibilities. Genie, get it to get it.